I am $2,486 richer, which means I just got paid. And we are going to go through my spending for the rest of the month of May. We didn't exactly have all of our bills come out or all of our expenses come out. However, we are on track to close this out in this video, which is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to drag May on any longer than it needs to be. And then I'm going to need to run because I have to actually leave town for Memorial Day. Yes, it is 5/23/2025 right now. So when you guys watch this on Sunday, I will be on a mountain somewhere eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. However, I will make sure that things are scheduled while I'm out of town so that you guys don't even notice that I am gone. Apologies if I sound a little tired because I am. Now let's get started with how we spent the rest of our money and what we did with what we didn't spend for the month of May. And if you are new here, my name is Bo. I am 32 years old. I live in Seattle, Washington, and I am on a journey to reach $1 million net worth by the time I hit retirement age. If you're into that, stick around, subscribe, and we will get right into the video. So for my bills, like I said, they didn't all come through. However, there are some pending transactions. So I was able to put the numbers down now so that we can close out May. So I did pay the $1,446.50 for my prorated rent. Again, next month in June, it will be $1,300 again, as usual, because our lease is renewed. I also paid my blog bill, and I paid $125 for groceries. And lastly, my Orca card was $10. So that is all the bills for the month of May. And we're looking at a new clean month with June coming up next. For our savings goals, again, 0. I didn't save at all this month. However, I did put another $500 towards my July trip. And so that's what I'm going to put here. 22, 2025. I put another $500 for the trip. So we are at a total of $2,500 for our cabin deposit. That's all I'm paying for this trip. So the car, I'm not necessarily going to pay for, and then we can budget for the spending when we get closer to that time. And then we can't add any beans because we did not save. So that is it for our housekeeping items. So now we're just going to go into the month of May to go over our goals, what I spent, and everything like that. Okay, so for the month of May, we had 3 goals: pay off cabin trip for July, keep spending under control, and invest $1,000 within my 401k. I made the goals easy because I wasn't confident in being able to reach my normal goals just because of what I needed to accomplish in the month of May. And I was able to accomplish these, which honestly, I am in need of a boost the last, I think, 2 or so months. I have not been able to reach those goals. And so this is a good change. So it's going to feel nice to just check, because we made all of those goals, including the last little save for the July cabin. So that's great. And looking at the numbers, I filled a lot of this out like I usually do because I don't want to waste any time. Some of the numbers are going to look a little funky. As you can see, my total budgeted expenses I have is $2,669. However, because I'm not necessarily saving the sinking fund, it's more being taken out of my check, right? And it's going to be used later. So I did put the sinking funds numbers into the overall calculations when we get to the month wrap up. However, they're not here. So you're going to see that the total expenses are going to be like $5,500, something like that, $5,100. It's because of this extra $2,500, just so you guys know. So looking at the numbers here, I have them all written out. I am noticing that in terms of self-care, I am lacking. I don't budget enough for it. And then when I do budget for it, it's just 0. I did get a comment on one of my prior videos about how I could probably split up my miscellaneous spend so that this doesn't look as ridiculous. And I think I'm going to give that a try because self-care just isn't doing well as a category of its own. So I think maybe I'm going to retire the self-care category, maybe rename it hobbies so that the blog can be there. I don't know. We'll see. And then we can put the beauty or whatever into the miscellaneous spending because this is just not going to cut it. It's just looking really weird. So we'll figure that out. But yes, my self-care was $4.48. My pets came out to 60. That's how much we are going to have to put down when we split his down payment for his visit. And then for miscellaneous, it says 475. As you can see, I ended up taking my beauty fund and putting it here, and then $30 from pets and putting it here. So that my total for spending was 475 instead of 400. And I did that because this money often gets spent here anyway when I don't use it. And so that's why I did that. And the total of all of this came out to be $2,651.39, which gives me a difference of $18.10. And the way I got to this number is through here. So for the month so far, I have spent $355.98 or something. Let me do a quick check. $355.87 spent so far. And if I still only had 400 left, then it would be like $44 left to spend for the month. However, because I told you guys I moved $70 from a few other categories into my miscellaneous, I actually have $119 left to spend, which I've decided that I am going to be spending that on my cabin trip. So that is what's going to happen. I'm going to spend that amount of money on the cabin trip, which is why I put miscellaneous as 475 actual, because I plan to spend that much on the trip. And so that is it for my spending. As you can see, the numbers are a little bit all over the place between here and here because the sinking fund was added here, but not here. But it will all make sense when we get to the monthly wrap up. I apologize in advance because I know it looks a mess, but this is what we're looking at. So from last month, I had $146.03 left over in my checking account, carried that over into the month of May, added it into my total income, and that's how I reached $5,536.25. That was my total income for the month. My total expenses, like I said, $2,651.39. However, I also put $2,500 away, and that is why we are at 5151.39, because I did not save that. So the difference between my total expenses and my total income was $18. I saved zero, and I have $384.86 left to move over into the next month. Now, it doesn't even include rent. Usually it's like $1,000 some change, but the rent has already been taken out and put away. I am starting to realize the value in not keeping inflated numbers because it really doesn't help me with my math in the end. So that is how much we are working with going into June, and that is going to be added into June's income as well. So that's where we are with the numbers. When we go into the percentages, it's really funky just because of how I chose to do things today. So my biggest expense was this trip, saving for this trip. And I know it looks a little rough in terms of the numbers because I wasn't able to save. However, this is how I'm able to function without having to use my credit cards, without having to go into debt. Sinking funds are not necessarily for the weak. But I always thank myself when it's time to spend the money in real time and I don't have to reach for my credit cards or think about any of the numbers. And so that is why we are doing things the way that they are done right now. It sucks in the moment. However, in July, I'm telling myself that I'm going to be rolling in dough and super glad that I did this. As you can tell by my voice, I'm not necessarily thrilled at the moment. So my living expenses was 31.9% of my total income this month, and my trip fund was 45.1% of my total income. If I weren't saving for this trip, I would have saved 45%. So that's really just bothering me. That's really bugging me. And I know there was a comment on a past video that was saying, there's more to life than just saving. You could always make more money. And I know that. And I'm learning that that's something that I'm really struggling with is not necessarily attaching my worth to how much I invest and save, but just like being bothered when I'm not able to save anything. And specifically, like if it's under $500, it really bothers me that, I'm not able to save the majority of my money. And it's such a weird, conflicting feeling because I preach on this channel that, anything counts and start where you can, and feeling the cognitive dissonance of what I'm saying versus what I'm feeling inside. This is like the first time it's happened. And so I'm kind of trying to reconcile that in my head. That is where I'm at right now with my percentages. The cabin trip for this month, so the one that I'm actually going on as soon as I finish filming this video, was only 5.2% of my income. Miscellaneous was 8.6%, and I had 7% left over. I'm not even going to mention entertainment and pets because it was 1% each, as usual. Now, when it comes to the lessons for the month, I achieved this month's goals. However, I don't know why, but I really feel crappy. I don't know if I feel crappy in the moment or just in general, but it's not feeling too great. So that's where we are with that. I achieved this month's goals, but where did I have the most trouble? Not saving or investing. Really don't know what more to say about it, except that I need to just figure out how to reconcile, I guess, my ego with how much I'm saving and investing. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to do that this month, but I didn't know it would feel this bad. So that's what I had the most trouble with, just not saving anything, not even like 100. It just feels really bad. With that being said, I do invest in my 401k, so that is happening. But as you guys know, that money is not seen by me since it's taken out pre-tax. And so this, I guess, just highlights the importance of automated investing, because even though I'm not able to save tangibly with post-tax dollars, it's still happening in the background, which is a good thing. What did I learn this month by tracking my expenses? So I was creative this month. I stuck to my values, I stuck to my boundaries, and I said no to some things in terms of hanging out, spending money, and stuff like that. I said no. I really watched my budget pretty closely because I wanted to be able to save for this cabin trip. And I think that helped with me controlling my spending. So what I learned was that I really can control what I spend. And all those times that I'm not able to is just me making excuses, and I really need to get it together. However, I need to find a good balance, and I often struggle with that. I do obsess over saving money and investing money, and I do know that it is because of my background and how I grew up. And so this is just something I think that's coming up suddenly, weirdly, like 10-ish years later, and something that I just am having a hard time with reconciling. I'm not sure how to even express it to you guys. I'm not going to lie. So I'll just leave it at that. What could I improve with this month? My mindset, right? I'm too focused on how much I'm investing. I know this is a budgeting and investing and saving channel. It's got a little bit of lifestyle, but I don't know if it's just this month or just some personal things that I'm learning in general. It's just really making me obsess about how much I have saved in retirement and if I'm going to survive. I think I'm just having a hard time. You guys can probably tell. So I think I'm just going to work on just taking a little bit of a break after this video. I'll have some stuff scheduled for you guys, but just really disconnecting while I'm on vacation and just taking a break, because I am definitely going through some burnout, feeling defeated, run down, tired. I've been at a go all month and super exhausted. And I apologize because I know it's coming through on the video, but I don't want to miss any uploads for you guys. So that is why I might not sound as enthusiastic or thrilled, I guess, about my progress. So that, unfortunately, I hate to end it on a not so positive note, but that is the month of May. It was rough. However, we got through it successfully. And so I hope you guys got some value out of this. I'd love to hear in the comments how you're feeling about your month of May, what you're doing budget-wise, if you're doing anything for Memorial Day, all of that stuff. I want to see in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video.